Hello again, everyone. It is great to see you all. Today, I'm here to talk about Episode 8 of The Amazing Digital Circus. As many people in the Amazing Digital Circus fandom know, Episode 8 just released. Though by the time this is out, Episode 8 will have probably been out for a bit. But anyways, today I'm here to review the beautifully wild roller coaster that is Episode 8 of The Amazing Digital Circus. Before I go into my review and analysis, I would like to thank everyone who has viewed, liked, and subscribed. It is so helpful, and I am so grateful to everyone. Come on. 26 subscribers. I know to some it won't seem like much, but it's been so amazing. It has exceeded my expectations greatly, and the 1.5k views on my short, that is freaking insane. Anyways, I'm rambling. On with the show. The Amazing Digital Circus already has amazing animation, and it has been incredible to see how much Glitch has improved since the first episodes of Murder Drones. I personally loved the animation of Episode 8. It was so beautiful and stunning, and it made the worms in my brain do a little jig. The glitch effects were absolutely amazing. Fun fact about me, I love glitch effects in animation, especially when they are detailed and graphic. Something in Episode 8 that made the worms in my brain have a whole entire rave for days was God Kane, or whatever you would like to call the Kane when he was all arms and giant. I love it. The Amazing Digital Circus inspiration becomes more obvious and more prominent in Episode 8, as Kane starts to act much more cruel towards the circus members and treats them like his playthings, even at one point using them as bowling pins. Similarly, in the inspiration for the Amazing Digital Circus, I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, the AI, AM, uses the characters as his playthings and tortures them for his amusement, just as Kane does in Episode 8, so it was fun seeing the inspiration truly show itself. The Amazing Digital Circus, like any fandom, has gained a large amount of fan theories, some better than others. In Episode 8, a few fan theories were confirmed, such as Kinger knowing everything, there being a Kane and an Abel, and the circus members being able to create things just like Kane does. I got really giddy at the beginning of the episode when they showed Kane being created. I immediately knew what was going on, and when it showed the blue dot, who I believed was meant to be Kane, I started bouncing in my seat and kind of freaking out. By the way, I was in my dad's car on my way home from therapy while watching this because it premiered right after I got out of therapy, so me and my sister just ended up watching it in the car. Anyways, the reveal that Kane created the circus himself on top of the confirmation he offed Abel was absolutely insane. There are already a lot of small details in the Amazing Digital Circus, and Episode 8 is no exception. It was packed with little references and small details, and some of them I didn't even notice. One of the references that made me go, "Oh my gosh, that's so cool!" is when Kane is singing his song, absolute banger by the way. He says, "Don't need to scream if you ain't got a mouth," which is just, oh my gosh, it is just peak referencing. Another detail from the song that my sister actually had to point out for me is that when Kane is really starting to torture the circus members, he puts Jax in the electric chair, which I think adds to the theory that he committed a hit and run, which is why he was so scared by the thought of going home in Episode 7. Another detail that I don't think anyone has figured out yet is the title, which is odd, to say the least, but what about this show isn't? There is so much to unpack regarding the psychological side of things in Episode 8, but I'll go into much as I can. When Kane finally snaps after being insulted by Pomni and the other circus members, he traps them all in what is essentially their own personal hells. Pomni ends up in a dark room where she is confronted by a twisted version of Gummy Goo, showing she still feels a large amount of guilt for what happened on the Candy Kingdom adventure, and her feeling of loss of connection to reality. Ragatha's is pretty obvious, with the dark shadow looming over her being her mother, along with the NPCs possibly representing siblings or other family members who have been subject to her mother's hurtful words, and I'm pretty sure that the knives are meant to represent how sharp her mother's words could be. Gangle's own little hell was likely meant to represent how she constantly feels like her happiness is just out of reach, and possibly that she feels like her emotions are constantly distorted. And the truck she gets hit with when the scenes are changing is likely meant to represent her draining fast food job she used to have, as we see in Episode 4 when she's finally letting go of the mask she's wearing, she gets hit by a truck. Zubal's personal hell was genuinely heartbreaking. To watch as in episode 7, she was just saying how she was getting better and feeling less like she had to commit to one thing. Then all of that progress was absolutely undermined by Kane's tormenting. And finally, Jax. Jax's hell was intense, and possibly the darkest thing Glitch has ever made.
It's our new kingdom.
It really showed how much Jax fears being vulnerable around the people he cares about and how they would react if they saw him actually showing human emotion. Finally, let's address the chess piece in the room, Kinger. Kinger also had some theories confirmed about him, specifically that he did in fact know everything, but just couldn't say anything because, well, he's only sane in the dark. Also, the fact that Kane had basically given the circus members a massive lore drop by having Abel saying Kinger worked for CNA and they didn't even realize it is kind of twisted, but also kind of funny. I just ended up falling in love with Kinger even more after episode 8 because he's just the best digital dad that ever existed. It was also interesting to note that the original group of circus members all seemed to work at CNA, since Kinger does mention he worked with Scratch, and he tells his wife when she first arrives at the circus along the lines of, "I'm sorry for bringing you into all of this," likely meaning his wife worked with him or she just helped him with projects. The ending of The Amazing Digital Circus was heartbreakingly amazing and has set up episode 9 perfectly. The ending of episode 8 has also created so many new questions, such as how long will the circus stay stable now that Kane is basically dead, and can the characters even escape while he's dead? And what will happen to the abstracted characters, and if the circus members do escape, will they even remember any of this? There are a lot of questions that need answered, but for now, let's just hope that the ending of The Amazing Digital Circus isn't nearly as dark as its inspiration. As in the ending of I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, the main character, Ted, all saw the other characters to save them from the immortal torment that is inflicted on them by AM. Alright. Whew, boy, this ended up being a lot longer than I expected. But that is my review of The Amazing Digital Circus Episode 8. I hope whoever watched this enjoyed, and if you want more content, like and subscribe. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.